Hello and welcome to the Turnaround Talk Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Marcia Teperman, the creator of the Turnaround Method. And each week we'll be discussing different topics on health and well-being and how we can make the most of this precious life we've got. In this show, me and my guests will have fascinating conversations on how to use adversity as a springboard to create a thriving life. Today, I have the pleasure to chat to Karen Chaston. Karen is the co-founder of Live Love by Design, a Beyond Loss mentor, a speaker and author. Karen helps people move beyond any kind of loss to create a better everyday life. Karen, welcome.
Thank you, Marcia, for having me. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today.
I'm really excited, thrilled to have you on the show as well. I want you to tell us more about your journey.
Well, it's quite interesting at the world that we're living in at the moment. You know, there's so many losses that are happening. It's, I talk about the fact that the Grief Recovery Institute shares that there are over 40 different loss events that can affect our lives. And whilst most of us will know the most common ones, as in a death of a loved one, a divorce, a job loss, your health, your wealth, even your pets, at the moment, the minor, less known ones are actually coming to the forefront, as in loss of freedom, loss of status, you know, change in work conditions. And it's an interesting time that we're living in. And I'm so grateful that I can assist people to move beyond any kind of loss, as you mentioned, but I had to do the work myself, which is why, you know, I guess you've noticed, Marcia, that the things we assist other people to do, we had to travel the hard road, and then we assist other people to travel a lighter, easier road. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We do all the hard yard, the heavy lifting, and then we can shortcut this transformation for people because of the journey that we've been through. Absolutely.
Yes, which I love, because I'm a great believer that we are all here to leave the world in a better place than the way we found it. And through sharing our wisdom and our knowledge and our love, that's one way we can do it. So for me, I guess, you know, as I said, there's 40 different loss events that can happen in our lives. So we're all going to have multiple major losses. Though my major one that I probably should have stopped about, but I never did, was back in 2011, when my husband and I woke up on Sunday, the 10th of July, feeling that we were going to have a lazy day at home. So within 10 minutes, we found my youngest son by a minute, because he was a twin, Dan, had actually passed away at our back door the night, a few hours earlier, which, as you can imagine, was horrific. Though at that time, I was a CFO of a publicly listed company. And the way I got on with things was to just get on with things. And I just, you know, on the Monday after his funeral, I just went straight back to work. I just tried to carry on as normal, not realizing that after any major loss, your life is never meant to be normal again. I feel that the losses come to us at a time to assist us to reevaluate everything that we're doing, for us to turn around and for us to say, am I living my best life? Is this the life that I really came here to live? And it took me another loss, which came 15 months after Dan had passed, in the form of a job loss where I chose redundancy, for me to start to, I like to say, for me to start to come out of my Groundhog Day days, because that's how I refer to my corporate life. Is I was in a daze, and I feel, to be quite honest, that a lot of us have been in this daze, which is probably why at the moment we're all sort of being asked to stop. And I feel it's a stopping to assist us to wake up.
I agree. Yes. Yeah. Well, some of us who have been doing some of this personal development work and have, listen to messengers, that are cosmic messengers and so on, have been told that we are going to have a massive awakening, and we are going through this. And I hear sometimes that whilst some of us are struggling with the loss of freedom, or to some extent, and definitely we are looking, a lot of people are looking into, what does that mean for me? If I was to go back to my life now, would I like the same life, or would I want to have a completely different life? Have I, does it need to, something like that needs to happen? And I say, for me, when I had my accident in 1994, I was 22. I was caught up in my family drama, feeling a victim, and I had a wake-up call from that event. But we don't all need a wake-up call, but it's really good to know that when we do have those difficult losses in our life, we have people like yourself to coach us through that, and to talk to us about how we process loss and what we gain from loss, because there is something beyond loss, right?
Oh, it's totally beyond loss. And to be quite honest, I feel that we learn and grow more from our negative events than we do from our positive, because they assist us if we're willing to do the work. And I like to say, if you're willing to unwrap the gem, because there is always a gem that is waiting for you on the other side of any personal development, any time that you venture within, you will always unwrap these amazing gems. And most importantly, you start to unwrap your true self. And I feel that's what it's all about. I honestly, I'm not going to say feel, because I sort of know, it's a knowing within inside of me that we all have our life challenges. We all have our soul journeys and our soul developments each time we choose to come down to earth. And it's through working through these negative events that we're always going to learn and grow, as I said. But more importantly, we start to unravel the layers that we sort of put over ourselves, whether it's through the growing up process, or whether it's through not feeling good enough, comparing ourselves to others. We tend to put layers over our true self. And it's about us taking those layers off to come back to who we are. One of the greatest things that I love to say is that we are the only person we are going to spend our entire life with. So why are we putting ourselves last? And why are we giving up on our dreams? And why aren't we being true to who we are? And I feel that every time we have a scenario that helps us to stop, to help us to go through the 5-step process, which I share with everyone when we do go beyond loss, it's about sort of unraveling those layers so you can go, oh, I remember you. You're totally cool. Let's hang out again together.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with another person, that we know of our relationship with our family, we know of our relationship with other people, but we were trained out of the most important relationship, that is the one that we have with ourselves. So those difficult relationships, those difficult losses will really make us face that difficult relationship that we didn't yet explore. Not difficult, that the most important relationship that we didn't explore enough, and have to do this deep dive, this difficult work, but so worthy, because at the end of this process, like you said, there's the gem. That is that person you're actually always being there. It's just that you have been wrapped with all these other things, all the other layers and projections and implants and whatnot. So absolutely.
And a lot of them are limiting beliefs and that aren't even ours, that people have projected onto us. For example, I used to love to sing, and I was told when I was in like kindergarten to mime at the school play. So I would I sort of stopped myself from singing for a long time. But now I sing all the time, and I really don't care if I'm off key, because it brings me a lot of joy. And it's, it was just their perception, well, quite a few people's perception, that I don't sing very well, but it doesn't matter. It's like whatever brings you joy is the things you are most ideal for you to be doing. And that's,
Absolutely.
yeah, and it's just all these layers and layers, as I said. So for the beyond loss process, I find it quite fascinating that we have over 40 different loss events that can affect our lives, but none of us have really been taught how to move beyond loss, which seems like a big oversight in our education system, because we all grieve and suffer so much more unnecessarily than if we had understood the process of, having to move beyond any kind of loss. And let's face it, life is way too short to be spending any time grieving and suffering when, I don't know about you, Marcia, but I have so much I want to do that, I don't have time to be sitting around feeling sorry for myself, or, I do the process and the work so that I can always get the most out of every moment.
So yes, I think that is important that we acknowledge our feelings, and that but we don't try and bypass it. But
Right.
but if we have a process that we can follow, so that we can move through this quicker, right? And I guess to find the purpose,
Yes.
find our purpose in the end, or reconnect with our purpose, because a lot of the time it isn't about finding our purpose. It can be about reconnecting, because we might have forgotten what our purpose was
Yes.
because of the loss.
Yeah,
And
totally.
yes, absolutely.
And what's really important for people to probably remember, I like to say it's more of a remembering, is the fact that in every relationship we have, there's three components to it. So there's a physical component, there's an emotional component, and there's a spiritual component. So the physical component is where we physically hang out together, the way we talk to each other, the way we touch each other, all of those components. And when the loss event occurs, it's normally the physical relationship that ends. Okay, so if let's go with divorce, for example. So even though they're still alive, their physical relationship will always be different, because they won't speak to each other or touch each other in the same way. The emotional relationship is encompassing of all of our feelings, the good, the bad, the glad, and the sad. Whereas the spiritual component, it's that sort of intangible part where we know we're connected. We're not 100% sure why we're so connected to either this person, place, or thing, but we understand that there's this, great spiritual connection. So whilst the physical relationship will end, the emotional and the spiritual will live on forever. So when you learn how to move beyond loss, what you actually learn is you learn to complete the emotional relationship so that you can create a healthy emotional relationship moving forward. And that's the piece that most of us miss. We feel that if we're not emotionally upset or emotionally grieving, we didn't love that person or that thing or whatever the loss scenario was about enough. So, and people will go, oh, well, you got over that really quickly. So there's a lot of all those sort of misinformations that are causing us to suffer a lot more than what we do. And in my, virtual retreats and also physical retreats, we go through and we figure out all of those, I guess, cliches and beliefs and things like that, which I guess is being misinformed as we grow up. Something as simple as, say someone has died, like no one knows what to say to someone when they go to a funeral or they hear about, a loved one of theirs passing. And that's all you have to say is, I don't know what to say.
The truth always goes well, right?
Yeah, that's all you have to say is, I don't know what to say. I don't know what you're feeling. And you know, like even if I met someone who has lost a child or has lost their job, I still would not know what to say. Well, I would, but I wouldn't know what they were feeling, because every relationship is unique. And we need to understand that. So the relationship that I had with Dan is completely different to a relationship another mother would have had to with her child who has just passed. So I would never assume that I know what they're going through. And I would never say, I know what you're going through, because I don't. But I would say that I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here for you. I'm here for you to listen. And that's what people want, is they want someone to listen to and not to judge them and not to put their preconceived ideas onto them on, well, this is what you should do. And, you know, all those sort of things. It's allowed whoever is the person who is going through this major loss, it's for them to come to the realization that this is the best way forward for me. So everyone else just says, I don't understand what you're going through. I feel for you, but I'm here for you just to listen. Then people would very quickly come to the realization of what is the best way forward for them. And then there would be no judgment. There'd be no preconceived ideas. It would be, that's Sally Joe's way of moving through this. Whereas Marcia did it a different way. Now, neither of them are wrong and neither of them are right. It's just their way of processing this.
It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about a few other types of losses? I know I want to talk to you about the loss of mobility. That's and also the loss for me, for example, was the loss of my, I don't know what I would call it, but by acquiring a significant scar on my face, I lost that wholeness, if you want, of my appearance as I knew once. So I had to adjust to that.
So and a lot of people would say that you have a facial disability in the fact that it's scarred, and you know, like it's what we say is normal. And to be quite honest, there is nothing that is normal. We perceive it to be normal, but we're not. So it doesn't really matter what kind of loss you're going through. The process to move beyond is exactly the same, which we'll go through the 5-step process in a moment. But it's good for people to realize that there is always benefits as well as non-benefits to whatever happens in our life. Okay, so what are the benefits? Like, what would you say would be a benefit for you of having scarring on your face?
I can feel more compassionate towards other people who have different appearances. Doesn't even need to be scar or no scar. It could be just the variety of that humanity. So we don't go looking at trees and judging trees for having the branches growing in different directions, different from that other tree. Or, you know, we look at trees and we appreciate trees. So
that's
I guess,
right. And we don't say, well, that one's a little bit taller than this one, so I'd rather have that one. Or that one's prettier because it's flowering, whereas the other one is losing its leaves. So we don't compare like we do with humans. And I'm so glad that you so quickly came up with a benefit. And I'm sure that you are not as vain as you may have been prior to it.
And also, I guess just in general, from the whole event, I feel like I have become a better human being. I have gained self-agency, because it was so important to me to recover and to have a normal life, that I possibly got my act together a lot quicker than I would if I didn't have that event. It could have dragged for years, you know, of being kind of feeling like I didn't know my place in the world from my dysfunctional childhood or whatnot, you know. So definitely.
Yes. So let's go through the 5 steps so that we can, and we'll use that as as an example, because it's not an everyday one, but I'm sure people can relate to it as we go through. So the first step after any loss event is for us to stop. Okay. And it's quite interesting that we've all been asked to stop at this time. Okay. So when we stop, we get to take that, that conscious, loving breath, the one where we breathe deep down into our belly and we fill ourselves up with all the love and the wisdom that is required for us to ask some really tough questions. And questions like, what does this mean for us now? Like, what does it mean for me in every single area of my life? How can I create my new kind of normal? Figuring it out. And I really do feel at the moment, these are the questions that ideally it would be perfect if a lot of us are asking these questions. What does this mean for me? Let's look and delve into every single area of my life and figure it out. And then the second step is for us to accept it. Okay? So a lot of us find it really hard to accept, I didn't want to lose my son. I didn't want to go to his funeral. He was meant to be at my funeral. My mother was at his funeral and she was like, what the hell's going on here? I'm 50 years older than him. Why the hell is he not at my funeral and the other way around? But it's about accepting it, because when you accept it, you take responsibility for what has happened. You also take responsibility for what didn't happen. As I said, there's in every relationship, we all, have these things, and it's about accepting what has happened in our changed circumstances so that we can then move on to the third step, which is identify. And this is where we delve into what did happen, what didn't happen, looking at our dreams and aspirations in relationship to that loss event, and saying, it's not going to happen this way, but it can happen another way. So let's identify the ways that this can happen. Like, for example, you may have, you're a very beautiful lady, and you may have had modeling aspirations. Oh, now I've got scars on my face. There's no way I can be a model now. But then you can go, but wait a minute, I can do it another way. Why can't I do it as a physically challenged model? Why can't I show the world that the scars, whether they're internal or external, don't make you any less beautiful than when you didn't have them? Why does every model have to be perceived to be so perfect? Why don't we create a world where no matter how you look, you are in your own right beautiful? So it's about identifying different ways to get any of your, aspirations and your dreams to still come true. And another part of delving into identifying, it's also about figuring out the things that didn't happen that you wanted to happen, the conversations that maybe you wish hadn't happened, and coming to a place where you've actually got them all down so that you understand that when you move into the next step, which is to complete, you can easily complete the relationship. We've all done and said things that we wish we hadn't. We all beat ourselves up over them for way too long. And the other way, we wish we had done stuff. I wish I had spent more time with my son when he was alive. And I wish I wasn't so busy, working and providing for the family all the time. So we have all of these things that we carry around. Now, if you're grieving over someone who has passed, you could be, that's going to put you in the grave, because you can't change the past. But it's about understanding them and identifying all of these things so that when you move into the fourth stage, which is to complete, you have a clear understanding of everything that you want to complete. And the best way to complete anything so that you can come to loving relationship to it is to apologize, forgive, and to acknowledge. Because when we do all of those things, we then complete that relationship and move on to another. For example, when I was 16, I found myself pregnant. Not sure how that happened. Well, yes, I am. And I chose to adopt my daughter out. Okay. So then roll forward 27 years, she came into my life, and it's, which was nearly 20 years ago now. And it's was a very up and down relationship. When I decided to do this process on the baby that I had adopted out, right, our relationship, our adult relationship got a lot better. Because what I found was I was still carrying a lot of grief, a lot of shame, a whole lot of feelings in relationship to that baby. And so through me completing that relationship with her, it allowed our relationship to move forward as adults. So that's what I'm saying. It's about, and so it's the emotional journey, which I said earlier, right? So I completed the emotional relationship with my daughter as a baby. Very important. So that then as an adult, I could have a relationship. Now, a lot of people, a lot of empty nesters, they go through a grieving process of their children leaving home. And the reason it's such a huge void in their lives is because they haven't completed the relationship with the child. And so that they can then have a different relationship with their adult child. It's very important, these processes. And that's why I'm saying most people don't see these losses as a loss. But when you realize that they are, and it could be something as simple as moving home, there's a loss.
Yes.
Complete the relationship with your old house so you can move into your new house with love and gratitude and forward. So, and most people, because people don't see these different things as loss, they will say something insensitive as, what do you mean? You've moved to a better house. Why haven't you moved on from the old house? What's wrong with you? But understanding that our house is our energy. It has housed us. It has kept us warm. We've had a lot of love events there. Sure, we may have had some angst events in the house as well, but it's about understanding that and completing it. And then when you complete the relationship, and it's absolutely a beautiful process within itself, you can then do the fifth step, which is to pivot. And that's the fun part, because that's where you get to go, right, this is where I am, and this is where I want to be. So what are the action steps and the skills required so that I can take the steps and close that gap and close that gap and close that gap in all areas of your life? It's not just in one area, it's in all areas. Because I firmly believe that every lost situation has come into your life to assist you to pivot to become the person who you are meant to be.
It's so interesting. I definitely relate to what you said in regards to your daughter, but the other way around, because I know that a lot of people carry sadness throughout their life because of the loss of the idealized parents that they didn't have, and that's definitely the case for me. And I know that my mom also struggled with shame and guilt for things that she's done in the past, and she still looks at me, and I wish she went through this beyond loss with you, because she would now be able to have a relationship with me from this place where she has completed that part, and she's now having another one. And honestly, I don't know if she has ever been able to move on with her life because of that trauma.
Is she still alive, Marcia?
Yeah.
Get her in contact with me, because it's a scenario very similar. I just worked through with a lady. She thought she was coming to me to work through her second divorce. But when we went through the whole process, she realised that the first loss event for her to complete was a very similar situation. The fact that she never had a loving relationship with her mother. And
Mm.
through the process, when she realized all of this and we went through it, she just went, oh my God, I have made some not ideal choices because I never had that love from my mother the way I wanted the love from my mother. Now, she never said her mother never loved her, just didn't love her the way she required to be loved. And there is a difference. And she, through doing the whole relationship, she said, oh my God, I feel so much lighter. I feel at peace. Her mother has already passed, though, on the other side. And I said, your mother still feels it and is with you. But if we can do it while we're still in this realm, it really is amazing, because it helps us so we don't have to come back down here another time to learn the same lessons.
Well, unfortunately, my mom speaks Portuguese. I don't know if she would have English enough to work with you, but maybe we
All right.
can help her somehow. But
You
this
know
is,
what? I know a lady
you
who
do?
speaks Portuguese. She may be my interpreter. So who knows?
Fantastic. That would be
There's
really good.
always a way if you look for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I mean when I say the loss of the idealized parent is that kind of love you wish you had, but you didn't have.
Yeah.
And, you know, and for us to be adults and, and do well in our adult life, we also need to move on from that,
Oh,
right?
yes,
Because that can
totally.
affect, like you mentioned, your relationship with your
Yeah.
husband and financially and so on. So very, very important.
It is
Yes.
very important. And the more that we complete these relationships, and we will, you know, on average, you know, if over 40 different, we'll have one major one every 13 years. So we get to 40, we've got 3 or 4 that, you know, is ideal for us to complete. So the more we complete them, the more complete we become. And the more complete we become, the more we realize that we don't require anyone else to complete us.
Mm.
You know, there's so many people out there, oh, I require a man in my life, or I require a wife in my life, so in order for me to be complete. No, it's about 2 complete people coming together, and in unison, they create a life together. But they're still complete people in their own individual right, because otherwise you've got 2 half people together. And that's
Mm-hmm.
never going to work.
No, and you know, you said you were saying about the loss of the aspirations,
Yes.
and I watched your videos, short videos on LinkedIn, and I was going through a loss myself, and I have done that exercise, and it was beautiful because it really revealed to me what the crux of my sadness and my loss was, and but also really open up for all the possibilities to have that in the future. So which means like, all right, this, I might have lost this, but all of this still, well, you know, possible for me. And so it was really beautiful. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
if anyone wants to follow Karen on LinkedIn, she's very active, and you will get a lot out of her videos on LinkedIn.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. They can also go to my website, either website, Live Love by Design or KarenChaston.com, because I repurpose them all onto both of them. Because what is great, Marcia, about you saying that, and I'm really grateful for you to say it, is we do these things, and when people watch them and they learn something new, a new concept or a new way of thinking or doing something, it's always great to know that I've touched someone in some way. So thank you for that.
Oh, do you want to know how else you touched me? So just want to share with you guys that I've known Karen for a long, long time.
Yeah, I knew you before Dan even passed.
So when did we meet, Karen?
I think we met either 2009 or 2010.
Yeah, I think it was 2009. Yeah. So Karen was a Pilates client. She used to come to my studio a long, long time ago. And then in 2000, and when did we meet in Manly? That you have
it was 15 or 16.
Yeah. So in 2015 or 16, Karen and I met for a catch up in Manly, and she has gifted me one of her gratitude journals. So here I've got another one. The first one was water, and I've done the 99 days of my gratitude journal, and it was just beautiful. So I just want to say it again. I know I told you this, but at the end of me completing the 99th day of the first journal, something magical happened to me. It was the day that I got the offer to work with the NDIS and got a full-time job as a single mom. For me, it was very significant that I had a stable source of income and a new career that I could, work within office hours and have more time with my son. And that was my intention in the beginning. So Karen very kindly sent me not one, but two diaries. So here we go. I've got two lots of 99 days of gratitude to continue. And so thank you very much for that.
No, and thank you for saying it, because, when we do a process and we're faithful to it, it's amazing how much comes to us after it. It's like, well, you've taken the action steps, so now here's the reward. And that's what a lot of people forget. They expect to be rewarded with very few action steps. And it's just about, even though you feel that what you're doing isn't being validated, keep doing it, because it really does come back to you.
Yes. Can I ask you one more question about how did your life change? What changed for Karen from the time when you were my client and you were CFO?
Oh my God, so much.
Now, tell us a little bit more about the transformation.
Every single area of my life was changed. So when we met, I was a CFO of a publicly listed company, working way too many hours. I would sort of rush in and do that, and then I'd go home. And if anyone had asked me at that time, how do you cope with stress, I would have said I never get stressed. But I was drinking a bottle of wine a night. I was just grabbing anything to eat. Even though I was exercising, I was not living and loving me. I was earning great money, but I was wasting most of it just to cope with my life. So everything has changed in my life, even to the point now. I decided to stop drinking at the end of 2018, and I haven't had an alcoholic drink since the 30th of December in 2018, which was my choice. And I have to say, every single relationship in my life has improved because I chose to take that steps. I now have my own business. Just everything with Beyond Loss. I just love the fact I can share with people. I'm about to bring my physical Beyond Loss retreat to a virtual scenario, which is amazing. And everyone has choices. They can do it by themselves, they can do it in a group, or they can do it with me, which is amazing. I just love the fact that not only have I taken the steps to really love who I am, that I can share these tools with everyone, because I take them through the process, but then I take them through the next process, which is the keys to your success, which is where we do delve into every single area of your life. And we deep dive in and we have a look at it and we go, okay, so what do you want? Who do you want to be? Let's figure it out and let's move on. So yeah, I'm a completely different person to who I was. I'm a lot more positive, I think. And yeah, I'm just living and loving life.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. Karen, do you have a way for people to connect with you? Do we have a free gift for the listeners and viewers?
Yes.
That would be really good. Tell us about it.
Okay. So that's another thing I didn't even share. I am also an author and a speaker. I would never have done that when I was in my corporate life. So now we can go to livelovebydesign.com and you'll see there's a few through ways. You can connect with me and have a 15 conversation with me. You can also download the full copy in a PDF form of my Live Love by Design book, which has over 72 different exercises on how you can learn how to live and love your life. So yeah, just go to Live Love by Design, and there's so many videos on there, same as going to KarenChaston.com. There's videos, there's so many different ways that you can connect with me, either physically or through my videos. And of course, I've got a Beyond Loss webinar coming up where I take people through the process. So, those dates are constantly changing on my website. And so if you want to come on the webinar, please do. Just visit karenchaston.com/webinar. So there's heaps of ways they can connect.
Heaps of ways. That's so good.
Yes.
And one last thing I was going to ask you, actually, I should have asked you before that, but doesn't matter really. There is no right and wrong here. So we heard a lot, like, we are now establishing our new normal.
Yes.
And can you talk to us a little bit more about the new normal? What does that look like?
The new normal that I feel that we're all in at the moment, what we're creating?
In general, if you want to talk about the new normal in the process of grief and loss, and then in where we are now, that would be really good.
So I actually feel that your new normal is you coming back to you. And the more you come back to you and the more you remove the layers, you actually come back to everything that brings you joy and love and happiness and laughter. And you then realize that all of these things that we feel that we all require, they all fall away, because most of the things that we require to make us like that, they don't cost us any money. It could be walking in nature. It could be just enjoying the sunshine, enjoying a tree. One of my greatest things to do is to lean up against a tree and just feel the energy into your body. I am convinced I was a Native American in a past life, because that's what they used to do before they went into battle. So they grabbed all the energy from the tree so that they had extra energy so that they could go into battle. And then, of course, thanking the tree after you do it. It's about, giving and receiving and understanding it. And I'm continually thanking the sun for the warmth, thanking, the sky for the beautiful sky. Even when it's raining, I thank the sky, because obviously we require that water at that time. So it's about understanding and appreciating. And that's what a new normal is like when you move beyond loss, because you come back to the things that really, it doesn't matter whether you are, wealthy or poor, everyone has these available. So in the scenario that we're in now, it's very interesting, isn't it? That it doesn't matter whether you're wealthy or poor or young or old. We are all being affected in some way. And I honestly believe it's so that we can go through the gift of loss process, the 5 steps that I mentioned earlier. The first step was to stop. We've all been asked to stop. Then it's about, okay, we've got to accept it. A lot of people kept partying and kept trying to flying everywhere and going on cruise ships and stuff like that. Well, eventually they were like, no, you've got to accept this. You've got to stop. So then they were asked to stop. And the ones who didn't stop, maybe they became sicker than the ones who actually honoured the process and are starting to do the work. Then, of course, it's about identifying, and I feel that's where a lot of us are now. We're identifying who we want to become. We're identifying the things in our life that we want to, put to the side. They're no longer serving us. We're also identifying who we want to become so that we can complete the old and create the new. And it's an honour to do both, is to thank the old, as I said, to apologise, to forgive, and to acknowledge. And there's so much to acknowledge in relationship to the old. But as we create the new, it's then about getting excited and making sure that we do it in all areas of our life, which is the pivot stage. And I keep saying that is the fun part, because it's like you've got a blank canvas and you can go, right, I'll put a little bit of this here and a little bit of that there, and I'll shake it all up. And who am I going to become? And it's the person, whoever you feel you'd like to become. But what I've found since we've been in this scenario is I'm loving more. Like, I'm more loving to myself. I'm more loving to other people. I'm having conversations with people, and before I hang up, I will say, I love you. Whereas I may have thought that before, but I never verbalized it. So that's, I feel, is the part of us that we're actually coming out and actually saying things that we have probably kept, inside for way too long. Whether it's because we thought, oh, well, they'll just laugh at us or they'll just do this. Whereas I just think, well, that's how I feel, and I'm just going to let you know.
That's beautiful. Really resonated with me, what you just said. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is that the resilience part for me really has to do with you knowing who you are. Yeah. And knowing yourself, because like, you know, if you were in a fiction movie where you are kind of removed from one place and put it into another, which happened to me, not involuntary. I volunteered to the changes in moving countries and so on. Every single time you need to adapt to a new situation, whether it's a new country or a new relationship or a relationship that breakup that you have to be on your own. Every single time, that relationship with yourself and then knowing yourself is all you have. So it's the foundation for everything. It's your resilience. Yeah. And so doing the things that make your soul sing and make you happy, and that getting to know who you are and completing all these other relationships and so on. That's the time. We have so much time to do that right now. And so very good opportunity.
We do. And I honestly feel that when we all, come back together again, it will be a new kind of world that is better for all, not just a few. And I'm really looking forward to living in that world.
Me too.
Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so feeling so privileged to have had this conversation with you, and can't thank you enough. I'm sure that everyone who listened to you now will be delighted and will have learned so much from this conversation. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thanks. Great to chat as always. Bye.
Great to chat. Bye-bye.
And be good to yourself, everyone.
Exactly. The Turnaround Talk Show and Podcast is brought to you by Marcia Teperman. You can find me on my website, www.marciateperman.com.au, or you can connect with me on social media via Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to being with you again soon.